What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here as always on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade J.J. Williams, and today I'm going to bring you my review of the third of 6 films from the Walt Disney Animation Studios package era, the wartime era. Today, it's 1946's Make Mine Music, featuring narrations by Sterling Holloway and Jerry Colonna, and music by Nelson Eddy, Dinah Shore, Benny Goodman, the Andrews Sisters, and others. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews. And like I said in the intro, today we're going to keep on going through the package era. Today is the third out of 6 total films that make up the package era, the wartime era of the Walt Disney Animation Studios films. Today is Make Mine Music. And similar to Fantasia, Make Mine Music features 10 stories, all set to music. There's no dialogue from the characters or anything. There's some shorts that are narrated. Like I said, Sterling Holloway, Jerry Colonna, but otherwise they're all scored to music. However, unlike Fantasia, the music is a lot more modern. Nelson Eddy, Dinah Shore, Benny Goodman, the Andrews Sisters. Granted, those names don't sound modern by today's standards, but back in 1946, that was the music of the times. And also, in my opinion, the film doesn't drag near as much because the music is a lot more contemporary as opposed to your traditional classical music. Let's get right into it here, shall we? The film opens with our first segment, the Martins and the Coys. And in this segment, the vocal radio group, the King's Men, tell the classic story of the Hatfields and the McCoys and their feud in the mountains. And one by one, the two families kill each other off until all that's left are Grace Martin and Henry McCoy. The two meet, ironically, while trying to kill each other, and of course, they end up falling in love. They get married, and as all married couples do, they have their fights, which technically allows the family feud to continue. Now, this segment was cut from home media releases due to the depiction of gun use. I had to watch this segment on YouTube. As a matter of fact, this entire film, Make Mine Music, is the only one from the animated studios lineage that is not currently available on Disney+. And I think a lot of it has to do with this segment right here and the fact that it was edited from the media releases. So until they get to a point where they feel like they can reinsert it, like they've reinserted some stuff that was cut out of other releases, like we talked in Saludos Amigos, I want to say it was, the Goofy segment had been censored because of the scenes where Goofy is shown smoking a cigarette. So whenever they decide that they are willing to restore this segment in its entirety to the film, that's probably when it'll make its way to Disney Plus as a result. It was a good segment if you know the story of the Hatfields and McCoys, or even Romeo and Juliet, the two feuding families, and then the one member of each family that meets, falls in love. You pretty much get the gist of this story. Let's move on now, shall we? Next up is a segment called Blue Bayou. And the segment was originally intended for Fantasia and features 2 egrets flying through the Everglades on a moonlit night. Visually, you can totally tell how this would have fit in with the style and the story of Fantasia. But considering how bogged down Fantasia already was, and its runtime, and how boring I felt it was, I think it's placed well right here. And I believe this segment, the Blue Bayou, was the inspiration for the restaurant in New Orleans Square in Disneyland, at least in namesake alone. We then come to All the Cats Join In. And this is one of two segments in the film where the music is provided by the Benny Goodman Orchestra. And we see an animator's pencil drawing the action as it occurs in real time. It depicts teens of the 1940s being swept away by popular music. Very, very catchy in its musical score. For the time being, very, very visually entertaining. This is probably one of my favorite segments that's not the more popular ones, which I'll get to in a little bit. I really, really enjoyed this one and the music from the Benny Goodman Orchestra. Our next segment is entitled Without You, and it's basically just a ballad of lost love, sung by Andy Russell, who had major hits with Bésame Mucho and What a Difference a Day Made. It was sweet, but it was very simplistic. I feel like it was one that was kind of very cost effective, so it just kind of got thrown in here. We're now halfway through the movie, our fifth segment, and it's one of the ones that the film is best known for, in my opinion. Jerry Colonna tells the story of Casey at the Bat, written by Ernest Taylor. And the story, which takes place in the town of Mudville, is about a cocky, arrogant baseball player whose arrogance ends up being his undoing. This segment, and one of the other ones I'll talk about in a minute, are, in my opinion, the two best known from this film. I remember seeing this segment alone on the Disney Channel when I was younger. You know, sometimes an episode of whatever was on would run a little bit short in its runtime, and they needed to throw something on to kind of fill the void before the next show would kick on. And I remember seeing this short in that time spot, you know. Oh, we need something to fill, throw on Casey at the Bat. Love this story. There is no joy in Mudville. The mighty Casey has struck out. Next is Two Silhouettes, a segment which features two rotoscoped live-action ballet dancers, David Lachine and Tanya Ryaboshinskaya, who move in silhouettes with animated backgrounds and characters. They are accompanied by two putty who are also in silhouette form, while Dinah Shore sings this title song. Again, very sweet, visually stunning. Nothing that really captivated me, though. But the next story is probably the other one that is the most well recognized from this film. Right up there with Casey at the Bat. And it's the story of Peter and the Wolf. Narrated by Sterling Holloway. There's that name again. There's that iconic Disney voice from this era. And each character within the story is represented by a different instrument. And it tells the story of a Russian boy named Peter who sets off into the forest in order to hunt the wolf with his animal friends. Sasha, a bird, Sonia, a duck, and Ivan, a cat. Of course, Peter ends up finding the wolf, taming the wolf, and becoming a hero as a result. In After You're Gone, our second segment, which features the music of the Benny Goodman Orchestra, it has Benny and his crew as 6 anthropomorphized instruments who parade through a musical playground. This one, to me, wasn't near as good as All the Cats Join In, but the music was still catchy, you know. Our last two segments have kind of developed a cult following. In my opinion, they're not near as popular as Casey at the Bat or Peter and the Wolf, but they do have a pretty good following. I do encounter people that really, really enjoy these stories, especially this next one. I've seen people kind of recreate these costumes at Dapper Day, one of the unofficial themed days that Disney does each year. The first segment, the one that I've seen cosplayed a little bit, is called Johnny Fedora and Alice Bluebonnet. And it's the romantic story of two hats who fall in love in a department store window. And once Alice is sold, Johnny is sad and he devotes himself to finding her again. And by pure happenstance, they happen to be reunited once again after some time passes as hats for a pair of horses. And they get to live out the rest of their lives side by side as the Andrews sisters provide the vocals. Very, very sweet, inspirational romance tale that, if you persist and you try and you dedicate yourself hard enough, sometimes you will get to spend the rest of your life with the person you love most. Our finale is entitled The Whale Who Wanted to Sing at the Met. And it's the other one that I was talking about that's kind of got a cult following here. The story is about a sperm whale named Willie who has an incredible musical talent, and he dreams of singing grand opera. A rumor spreads throughout the city about an operatic whale, but it's seemingly disproven. Even still, after studying the tale and the story of Jonah, Teddy Tatty wants to capture and exploit Willie, thinking that maybe he's swallowed an opera singer, and that's how he has his musical talent. Whitey, who is Willie's seagull friend, brings Willie a newspaper one day that tells of Teddy Tatty's journey to find Willie. So Willie sets out to meet Teddy Tatty, and he sings for him. And upon hearing Willie sing, Teddy Tatty feels that Willie didn't swallow one, but three opera singers because of his incredible voice and range and its tone. Teddy Tatty chases after Willie with a harpoon, but his crewmen attempt to stop him after hearing Willie sing. A montage kind of shows Willie's future and what could be, but Teddy Tatty is successful with harpooning Willie, and it ends up killing him. The narrator then tells us that Willie sings now in heaven with 1,000 voices, each more golden than before. The Whale That Wanted to Sing at the Met was a good one as well. It's kind of hit and miss for me. It's one of those type of shorts that I have to be in the mood for. There's times I sit through it and I'm just like, let's fast forward this already. Stop movie, it's over. It's the last segment. And there's other times when I watch it and I just get sucked in. But all the cats join in. Casey at the Bat, Alice Bluebonnet, Peter and the Wolf. All these stories and shorts are ones that I thoroughly enjoy in this film, and just leaps and bounds in improvement over Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros. Again, not knocking those films or the Latin American culture, just not anything that really draws me in like it may do some other people. But Make My Music and those four segments specifically really captivate me. And then when you get the Martins and the Coys, and occasionally the Whale That Wanted to Sing at the Met, now you've got 5, 6, 5.5, depending on how I'm feeling, stories that really draw me in during these package films. And if you can get me for at least half of them, then you've done a solid job, because that's 50%. You're not going to hit with every single segment, but to be able to hit with at least half of them, I feel is very, very good, all things considering this was a weak point for the studio. When it comes to my rating of Make Mine Music, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I feel that it's still, I don't know if I'm going to be able to give anything from this era really over 3.5 stars. I'm going to have to wait and see how I feel when I get there. So 3.5 stars is pretty darn good considering the era of production we're talking about, in my opinion. But I feel that it was a really, really solid movie, a really good package film. The music, like I said, was modern. It was catchy. You could like tap your foot to it, get invested in it. And even the stuff that was a little bit more on a classic tip, like Peter and the Wolf, was done very, very well, that it draws you in my personal opinion. So 3.5 stars out of 5 for Make Mine Music. Make sure you guys get out there. Let's try to get those hashtags trending for me. Hashtag Casa D18 Studios, hashtag Renegades Reviews, hashtag Renegade Returns, and of course, the ever popular hashtag Shenanigans. We interrupt this episode of Renegades Reviews for an important announcement about
merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Merchandising, where the real money's made.
Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all the t-shirts you see here from the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham himself. You can get shirts for the Jeff Meacham Network, Talk Wrestling, as well as the red and gold Meachamania shirts. And while you're there, don't forget to get your shirts of the Casa D18 Studios Brotherhood, the Dads on Wrestling shirt, the Renegade JJ Williams, Statboy Sports Bar, and the hashtag StatBoyApproved shirt. Make sure you go over to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network and score your shirts today. Make sure you guys get out there. Do what that commercial just told you. Go to teespring.com/stores/Jeff Meacham Network for all your official merchandise of the Casa D18 Studios Brethren. Get you your Renegade JJ Williams shirt, your Dad's Not Always on Wrestling shirt, Statboy Sports Bar, hashtag StatBoyApproved, hashtag Shenanigans. Get you your official merchandise for the Jeff Meacham Network. 3 different designs of the Jeff Meacham Network logo for you to choose from, along with Talk Wrestling, Meachamania, and so much more. Tomorrow, right back here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, make sure you tune in for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, when I discuss the 4th film in the wartime era, the package film era, Fun and Fancy Free, starring in live action segments Edgar Bergen and his ventriloquist dummies Charlie McCarthy and Mortimer Snerd, Luana Patton, Dinah Shore, and the vocal talents of Cliff Edwards, Clarence Nash, Pinto Colvig, and Walt Disney himself. You're not going to want to miss out on that tomorrow, where Walt Disney himself is the voice of Mickey Mouse, as he originally was. Make sure you get out there, do what that ticker is telling you to do. If you would like to help me acquire more movies to review, or just support me and send me a donation, go to that PayPal, or go to my Linktree and purchase something off of my Amazon movie wish list. If you choose to purchase a movie off the wish list, when I open it on Renegade Recap, I will give you a shout out and thank you live on the air. And then when I actually get to reviewing that film, I'll give you another shout out. Much like I did in Trilogies Month, when I mentioned how my friend Jamel from work hooked me up with the John Wick trilogy so that I had that to review for that month, since it was a Christmas present. I'll give you the exact same type of shout out. Remember, I'm not making money on these shows yet. I'm not monetized. You guys can't super chat me. So if you like all my hard work and you want to help me out and support me, go to that PayPal, send me a donation. Whatever you're comfortable sending, I greatly would appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in, all my loyal fans. If you've been watching the premiere, leaving your comments over here, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you're watching on demand, leaving your comments down here. Once again, thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I appreciate all my loyal fans who have tuned in day after day right here on Renegades Reviews for all new content every single day. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.